Hello, and welcome to the Catching the Octopus podcast. Here, we will explore how connecting inward gives us an advantage outward. We openly talk about the obstacles and challenges and difficulties that life throws our way and how they become moments of gratitude and things that can benefit us when we look back on our lives. I'm your host, Niomi Hurley, and it is my mission to bring you top quality guests that will share with you openly their obstacles and also the techniques they use to go inward that strengthens the way that they serve themselves and others at the highest level. Thank you for joining. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Catching the Octopus podcast. Today, we're doing a recap on the interview I had with Chris Cowan, and Chris is amazing. He's definitely a next level thinker, and he talks about significance and extending others, being a leader and actually helping people to become more than what they currently are. But he also, when he did discuss that, the thing that was interesting is he did recognize that some people are where they are for a purpose and for a reason, and that's okay. And we don't have to go as leaders to go out there to formally change them and make them better and bigger and brighter and all those sorts of things. We can support them in the space that they're in. Now, also, that doesn't mean that we don't give them highlights, of being in different places so they can still have that inspiration, but we can support them where they are and accept that they're on their own journey. When we were talking, as I said, about success, significance, and extending others and how they all link together. Chris talked about significance being and coming from what we're passionate about. That's what makes and gives us significance in our lives. So when we're following our passion and what we're doing, when we're doing the things that we're passionate about, we have that significance. And you can't see me unless you're watching the video of this, but I'm smiling saying that because I feel that. I left the corporate world to start my own business and took big risks, in financial risks and also risks just, with my whole career that I'd established and built on. But the significance I get from that because I'm following the passion, that's reaping the rewards, right? That's bringing the rewards in. So sometimes we need to just have that look and say, well, what are we doing right now? And are we doing something that we have passion for? Are we being passionate about where we are, where we can be, and where we're going? Because if we are, we're going to find more significance for ourselves in that. And that's going to lead to the success. Success doesn't mean that I don't know, richest person in the world or most influential person in the world, they are elements of success. But success comes from inner work as well, right? Success comes from being healthy, wealthy, and full of energy and following our passion. We also talked about stretching and drawing people out, right? Drawing those people out. They may be in the position where they are and in their comfort zone, but it's recognizing when they're in their comfort zone and when they're actually in their need to be there zone. And so if it's just a comfort zone, we can reach in and we can stretch them out. We can pull them a little bit, tweak them a little bit, mold them a little bit, and help them see the potential within themselves. And also, we talked about being in the moment with a person. So actually being there in that place with them. And, that helps us see things from different perspectives. That helps us see things from their perspective. And I talked a fair bit of perspectives in my recap on Jeff Stewart's interview, but it's come up again here in that sometimes we just need to sit and be with someone. And so it's finding that counterbalance of when we're stretching them, when we're drawing them, when we're inspiring and pulling them and tweaking them, and when we're actually just letting it be and just being with them. And that displays good leadership. because that then showcases that we're there serving the other person. It's less about us and about our ego and more about how we can serve them. Going back to that community level thinking. One other interesting thing that we talked about was being hardwired, right? We call it hardwiring, but our neurological pathways are changing all the time. So in the past, it's been referred to as hardwiring, and we talked about it as hardwiring, but really when we look at it, that's just a perception, right, on where our brain is wired. And so challenging that hardwiring, doing the reflecting. Another thing that Chris spoke about was he loves it when people challenge him, when people ask him questions about what he's saying that makes him think a little bit harder. Now, most people get triggered by that, right? I know I've been triggered by that in the past, but as you grow and develop in your leadership capacity, you welcome that, because that's actually what's going to allow you to grow even further. And let's be honest, if we're there sharing and imparting knowledge on others, we need to be open and accepting of that ourselves, because no one's at their end game. No one's absolutely perfect. And the more that we know and the more that we learn, and we may get to a point where we think we know it all, but we will soon go down that curve, the Dunning-Kruger effect. We'll soon go down and we'll soon realize that the more we know, the more we realize what we don't know. And so it's about being challenged and growing and becoming the best leader that we can be, and serving our team members, our colleagues, our family, and, everyone around us. And in Chris's case, even the community, serving them at the highest level possible. We also went through and we spoke about value and how everyone's values are different, and that's a good thing, and that's okay. Everyone has different values and what they feel is important and what they are driven to do, just like everyone has a different level of significance when they're following their passion, right? We all have different passions and we all have different values. So again, sitting with the people and meeting them where they are is a really big space of a leader. Now, I'm assuming Chris, in the role that he has, comes across all different demographics and people from all different socioeconomic backgrounds, but he sees past all that external things and meets them where they are. And that's why he is, an amazing leader. That's why he's in the position he's in, and that's why he's got the respect from the people that are around him.
If you're enjoying this podcast and you want Niomi or any of her guests featured on your podcast or as a keynote speaker at your next event, you'll find their contact details included in the show notes. If you'd like to learn more about how you can work with Niomi individually or as part of your strategy to improve leadership in your business, then review the courses, offers and services at getupandgroconsulting.com.au.
And another point he did make was looking for the good. Now, he didn't claim it as his own, but he said that one of his mentors had told him to always look for the good. And he gave an example of where he used that with a work colleague, and where they had come in and, they'd been speaking with a few other of their leaders, and there was still issues there. And they sat down and had, quite an extensive chat about all the good they were doing and how they were valued and how they were contributing. And then at the end, the person queried him and said, aren't you going to talk to me about that thing? And his response was, no, because I don't want to be focused on and don't want it to happen again. So, so when we're focusing on the good things, then we're promoting the attention and the energy to be around the good things. And so you may have heard of selective attention, right? Or the reticular activator in the brain. So when we're actually focused on something, our minds are wired to find more of it. So when we can focus on the good and when we can look at the good, then our brains are looking for more of that good. And they're looking for more things to reinforce that as a fact, as a belief, as something that's stable in our environment. Have you ever bought a new car, and then you're driving around, you see that car everywhere? It's the same theory, right? it's that reticular activator. It's that selective attention. It's a bias that we have within our minds that actually serves us to find what we're looking for. And so when we're looking for the good in people, then we're going to find the good. And as leaders, if we can get them to focus on their good and what good they do, then they're naturally going to bring that out. They're naturally going to serve from that place. We also looked at a great concept that he spoke about, which I actually really loved, which was being at 30,000 feet, right? So a plane sits at around 30,000 feet, right? It's pretty high. Now, when we spoke, he said, there's some people that sit at 15,000 feet, and that's okay. There's some people that sit at 20,000 feet, and that's okay. But as leaders, it's part of our moral obligation, it's part of our duty to serve, to help these people see what it's like at 30,000 feet. They may not want to stay there, may not be what they need or what they want within themselves for their lives, but we can give them an opportunity to experience it. And that's kind of our role as leaders. And if you're lucky, you'll every now and again find someone that will elevate you up to 50,000 feet, right? And what he spoke about there was a thing called rare air. So it's really rare for a plane to go that high, and the air up there is rare. Okay, so to experience that is not something that happens all the time with all people. And so when you can come into contact with someone that gets you to 50,000 feet, that gives you the experience of rare air, then keep connecting with them, keep working with them. Ask them to challenge you. One of the other things he did say was he likes it when people disagree with what he said, because when people disagree with what he says, that gives him another level of thinking or another way of looking at things. So another thing we can do as leaders, the people that are sitting at 15,000 or 20,000 feet, is giving them an experience of 30,000 feet, but every now and then really investing in them and taking them up and giving them rare air. And if we can do that, then we can create change. It might only be small increment change, but people will experience that and they will want more of it at some point. Now, might not be right for them right at this point in time, and that's okay. But as leaders, it's not our job to go and fix people and grow people and change people. What our job is to show people what their potential is, and then show up when they're ready to get there and help them on their way to get there. That's one of the important aspects. So one last thought from the amazing Chris, well, I thought it was amazing to chat with anyway, was he said he likens ourselves to corporate athletes, right? So we're corporate athletes. We're performing in this high performance requirement role. And to be an athlete, we need to look and we need to make sure that we're looking and we're eating right and we're sleeping right and we have the right spiritual connections and the right personal growth. And, something he does every day is he reads a nice positive affirmation, right? I think it's called the daily bread. So he reads that every morning, and he actually said it's like they write it for him every day, right? There's some nugget of wisdom that comes through that for him that helps him throughout his day and helps him serve. So when we have that strong connection, now, whether it be with God or with the universe or the creator, whatever you believe in, whatever you connect with, building that connection inward and that connection with that higher power of some kind actually opens up trust and intuition within us. And when we have that internal trust of self, then we see the opportunities before us. Things fall into place for us and we can see those opportunities and we can take them. We notice the doors that need to be opened and we can open them. Yet sometimes life will throw us with some obstacles, and we did talk about that in the interview, but those obstacles are often just things that are going to help us become who we need to become for that next challenge or that next way we can serve our community, our team, our family, our friends, ourselves. And when we actually look at looking after our own ourselves as athletes, that eating right, that sleeping right, that spiritual connection that we have and that personal growth, when we can hit all of those elements, then we are at more of an elite level, and that increases our capacity. So it was a really great interview. I thoroughly enjoyed catching up and having a chat with Chris. And if you haven't checked out the interview yet, I do recommend going across there. And I know that you'll get value out of it because it was just amazing. But thank you for tuning in to this episode of Catching the Octopus podcast. And I look forward to seeing and serving you in our next episode. Thanks for joining in and listening to this episode of Catching the Octopus podcast. It's been great having you here. And if you'd like to go and like and subscribe and maybe even leave a 5-star rating if you think it's worth it, I'd really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.